In our last little part, we're going to do what is called powers of I. And there's a little sequence here. Let's just write it out. So we know that I equals I. And remember, I is the square root of -1. That I squared, we know, is -1. Now, I to the third is going to equal this times this, so a negative I. So I squared times I equals I to the third. I squared is a -1, -1 times I. I to the fourth is I squared times I squared, -1 times -1, which makes it a +1. And this is your basic pattern for powers of I. So if you have I to the fifth, I to the sixth, I to the seventh, I to the eighth, I to the fifth is I to the fourth times I. I to the fourth is 1. 1 times I is I. So this is going to be I to the fourth times I to the second, which is a +1 times a -1. This is going to be -1. And this will be I to the second, or I to the third, times I to the fourth. And I to the fourth is 1. So this is going to be -I. And this is I to the fourth times I to the fourth, which is 1 times 1, which is 1. Now you may start to notice a pattern, that anytime you have a fourth power of I, that will equal 1. So if you take out all the fourth powers of something, then whatever's left, you apply to this particular scale. Let's give some examples here. Now how about if we had, let's say, I to the 13th? Well, I to the 13th is I to the 12th times I. And I to the 12th is I to the 4th raised to the 3rd. So this is 1. 1 to the 3rd is 1. So I to the 13th is just I. So if you take out those I to the 4ths in any number you're dealing with, so if you have I to the 22nd, well, can you see that's I to the 20th, which will be I to the 4th times 5, which is just a 1. Then you're left with I to the second, and we know I to the second is a -1. So that's how you work the powers of I out. Sometimes it's a little tricky, but we'll have something like this. I to the -13th. Well, we know that that would be 1 over I to the 13th. And I to the 13th is 1 over I to the 12th times I. So what did we say I was? I is I. So this is 1 over I. And if we rationalize that by a -I, this becomes a negative I over a negative. So again, going over this I to the -13, that becomes 1 over I to the 13th, which is 1 over I to the 12th times I, which will then become, since I to the 12th is 1, this becomes 1 over I. Now, we did have this as an earlier an example. I think it was number 6 on a previous little lesson here. 1 over I, as we rationalize that, or put it, get the I out of the denominator, we multiply that by its conjugate, negative I. So this then becomes a negative I over a negative I squared. Now, I squared is negative 1. The opposite of negative 1 is 1. So this then becomes negative I. So that's kind of an interesting working of powers of I. And generally you deal with them up in the numerator, but every once in a while they'll put something tricky in there. Well, it's my understanding that this is not used in our current 109 course, so that this is sort of an extra lesson.